A sexual assault investigation is underway at a Phoenix healthcare facility after a patient in a vegetative state gave birth. Brianna Whitney is a reporter at our Phoenix affiliate KPHO, and she's been following this story closely. She spoke extensively with sources inside the facility about the incident. So, Brianna, police just labeled this as a sexual assault investigation. What took them so long?
Yeah, we don't know. So last night we actually reported on the fact that we had been pushing them and asking them, why aren't you calling this a sexual assault investigation? And up until this point, they were all only calling it a matter that they were investigating. So they just called a press conference today. It's going to happen in about 45 minutes here in Arizona, and we should get more answers to that. But it's been 12 days since that patient gave birth, and today is the first time they have called it a sex crime.
When I spoke to you this weekend, you were saying about how police might not be able to get DNA from the workers. We know now that they've actually issued a warrant to get the DNA samples from all the male workers at the Hacienda healthcare facility. Do we have a time frame on how long it might be before we get those tests completed?
That's going to be a question we're going to ask in this press conference, because they haven't told us anything about that. We know they've completed getting those, but then there's the question of if there were male workers that have quit within that 9 months, will they be able to get DNA from them? What about visitors that could have seen that patient in that time frame? So we're going to ask Phoenix police that today, because that would be the answer of maybe that'll match that baby's DNA. But they certainly did get those DNA samples this week, and that was a challenge they were going to face in the investigation. So one step closer to finding out who did this.
Brianna, these court documents also reveal that the patient was actually given a physical exam 8 months before giving birth. Wouldn't it have come up in a blood test or something that she was pregnant? What else did we learn from these new documents?
Yeah, so we just got those today. It was an external exam only. So what we've learned is that there was a doctor that performed an annual exam every April on this patient. That is separate from a Hacienda doctor that would have been performing more close exams and following her each day, each week. But at least from these annual exams, they did this 8 months before she gave birth. The doctor noted that she had a, quote, firm belly. At that point, she would have only been about 4 weeks pregnant, and he wasn't doing any other exam than external. So we don't know exactly what that means, but we do know that in the previous exams, he did not say anything about a firm belly. So he wouldn't have completed the exam for this year until this upcoming April, and that's the last one that we have at least on file. But that does not account for the doctors that saw her who actually worked inside Hacienda.
I mean, is this a concern for investigators that this might have been some sort of internal cover-up?
Absolutely. I think that that's why they got the DNA samples from workers and from the sources we talked to as well. I mean, they said there are people that could have visited and family members could visit, but really for the most part, the only people seeing these patients and this kind of care facility are the nurses, are the staff members, and are the doctors tending to them every day. So we don't really know, and with the CEO resigning this week, that really puts a lot more questions into play here as to what happened inside the facility that investigators at this point don't know.
On Monday, the CEO of Hacienda Healthcare abruptly resigned. 3 decades he was on the job with this company. What more do we know about his past?
Yeah, so the day he resigned, I actually talked to a former manager at Hacienda. She had worked there for over a decade, about 11 years, closely under that CEO, Bill Timmons. And she told us about an incident that she remembered from 1998. She said there was issues with nurses inappropriately talking about another patient's genitalia, and they brought it up in a closed-door managers meeting. They were talking about reporting it to CPS, and she said CEO Bill Timmons slammed his fist on the ground and said, "No one is to report this." And she said they were so fearful about losing their jobs that nobody ever did. That was in 1998. So she believes that there's been abuse cover-ups that have gone on since then and until this point.
Before you go, I've got to ask you, how is the baby doing? What do we know?
That is probably the only positive update we have on this investigation so far. The family did release a statement through their attorney yesterday, and they said the baby boy is being well cared for in a loving family and is doing well. So I guess if there's one piece of good news in this story, is that the baby does have a family and is healthy, and that is the first update we've been given on the baby since he was born.
What wonderful news. That is really great to hear. I want to thank you very much, Brianna Whitney from our Phoenix affiliate, KPHO. Brianna, thank you.
Thank you.